Greetings, YouTubers and live videoers. It's me, LAMENT29. Just wanted to go over the Sodom and Gomorrah account or story. It's a very intimate exchange between Abraham and Yahweh, and it's kind of interesting how the whole conversation came about. Here in the new RSV, the Lord appeared to Abraham by the oaks of Mamre, as he sat at the entrance of his tent in the heat of the day. He looked up and saw 3 men standing near him, and when he saw them, he ran from the tent entrance to meet them and bowed down to the ground. So he goes on and he treats him with all the hospitality that would be normally treated to some strangers in the Near East. He feeds them and brings them water and bread. And at this point, Yahweh tells Abraham that Sarah will give birth, and she laughs to herself, and you have that whole exchange. However, further down, in verse 20 of Genesis 18, we get the start. So in just passing, Yahweh, well, here in the Greek it's Jehovah, but it's a name used for Yahweh. Then the Lord said, "How great is the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah, and how very grave their sin. I must go down and see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me, and if not, I will know." So here, apparently, it's kind of humorous that Yahweh is probably getting a lot of complaints from the members of the Heavenly Council against this city, saying how terrible it was. And at this point in history, and at this point where this text was passed down from, parts of it, there was a whole competition between the city as being an evil place versus the herders out on the plains. So there's that constant competition going on. So that's something to consider about why Sodom was destroyed. We know that after the Cain and Abel issue, where Cain kills Abel, and then Cain goes out and forms the city, that has everything to do with the competition from going from the nomadic state to a city state. And then Abraham starts the bidding process. So the men turned from there and went towards Sodom, while Abraham remained standing before the Lord. So he's face to face with Yahweh, which is a very intimate conversation. The 2 men leave on their way to Sodom and Gomorrah, and Yahweh stays and discusses with Abraham what will later become the outcome of the situation. And Abraham came near and said, "Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you then sweep away the place and do not forgive it for thy 50 righteous who are in it? Be it far from you to do such a thing, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Be that far from you. Shalt not the judge of all the earth do what is just?" And the Lord said, "If I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will forgive the whole place for their sake." So that's pretty amazing, because he goes down to, I think he gets it down to about 10. For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. So, in my opinion, I always wondered why, because we have the story of Job. I always wondered why Abraham didn't whittle it down to one, and he would have had it because Lot was there. Or three, Lot and his daughters, the ones who wanted to leave. Well, who were forced to leave. They didn't really want to. But I often wondered that, because you're dealing with the same issues here of God being just, and the same questions that Job was trying to ask God and put God on trial. The same thing is happening. The same kind of theme. So chapter 18 and 19 go together and should not be broken, which is one of the most frustrating things about chapters in the text. It's supposed to be straight up. So moving on, this would be 19:1, but it's connected all in one story. The two angels came into Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of Sodom. So as opposed to Abraham sitting in the tent, Lot sitting in the gate of the city. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet him and bowed down with his face to the ground. He said, "Please, my lord, turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night, and wash your feet. Then you can rise early in the morning and go on your way." They said, "No, we will spend the night in the square." But he urged them strongly, so that they turned aside to him and entered his house. And he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. So then you get the old crowd at the door, then the light in their faces, and they're smitten, and it ends up Lot's wife looked behind him, looked back. She became a pillar of salt. And Abraham went early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward the land of the plain, and saw the smoke of the land going up like the smoke of a furnace. So, this, in the middle of the story, could be a little explanation about the salt deposits and rocks in the area, which is a pretty interesting read if you want to look that up. So here we have a story, a lesson, and an explanation. But the idea of Yahweh to this particular writer of this portion of Genesis was very intimate, and the priestly texts of Genesis and the sections that they write, they're the ones that are saying you can't see face to face. But here we have a human having a face-to-face conversation with the deity. And it happened quite a bit in ancient Near Eastern literature, but that's one of my favorites, where the human helps to formulate the plans of the gods, which is very fascinating, and it's probably one of the very few myths or accounts where the gods ask the human, or in passing, bring up a topic that what about they're going to do, and it implies that this is just an implication. Maybe Yahweh was looking for his input and advice. So, feel free to check out ancient Near Eastern laments for cities. There's plenty of them. Let's see here. Let me just check out a few here. I'm not going to read them, but just want to bring it up so I can direct you somewheres. Because Sodom wasn't the only one that's destroyed or perceived destroyed by the gods. Here's lament for ERIDU, lament for Nippur, lament for Sumar and Ern, lament for Urk, the lamentation for the destruction of Ur. So there's three of them that you could probably pull up online and compare it to the Abraham Yahweh story. But later on, Jacob also has an intimate struggle with Yahweh when he wrestles, and it ends up being the deity himself, which I think is pretty interesting. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that little lesson there. I'm going to try to get on and do some personal background stuff at some point. Just need to find a good topic to talk about. Alright, take care, YouTubers.